Yesterday there was a very fascinating live stream conversation with Dr. Stuart Hameroff, and he works, I mentioned him before, he collaborates with Nobel physicist Sir Penrose on a model of consciousness, and he was asked a question that he said he couldn't really answer. Somebody asked, is a person who is depressed less conscious? And this would be tied into his theory that psychedelics actually put a person into what he calls the quantum underground, so that they're experiencing a higher frequency of consciousness, and so their external time appears to be slowing down, while their internal time is speeding up. And so he said before in this talk that even though the serotonin, which modulates the tubulin inside the microtubules, even though it's operating at the frequency of blue light, he can't say for sure that it is blue light, that it's working with blue light, because he also said before, like, people try to use red light for healing, but it's hard to get the red light into the neurons in the brain. And so then he said one of the reasons it's hard to say if a person who's depressed is less conscious is because there's a difference between cognition and consciousness, and then proto-consciousness. And so Hameroff said he's working on a paper now with another scientist about the difference between cognition and consciousness. And so cognition means your brain neurons can be working just like when you're under anesthesia, but you cannot be conscious of it. And this would be similar to hypnosis also, or like when you're driving a car, anything you're doing based on motor memory, where you're just not consciously aware of what you're doing. And so this is something that Gurdjieff emphasized, is that he said that modern humans basically are like machines, because he calls them number one or number two persons, and so they're controlled by the lower body frequency, the lower frequency, the red light, or even no light, and so I call this the fear, anger, ejaculation cycle of emotions. So people just keep circulating those lower emotional energies, and so Hameroff stated that consciousness doesn't necessitate cognition. It can just be an emotional state. That he said it's more like music than a computer, and so, for example, he cited a study done at my alma mater, the University of Wisconsin-Madison, with the Tibetan monks that the Dalai Lama had chosen as their top meditators, and that they're resting consciousness. Their EEG level is at a much higher frequency than 40 hertz. I think it might have gone up to like 80 hertz or something. And so the EEGs are based on the cognition. And so they're considered subharmonics of consciousness, whereas consciousness operates at the frequency of light in the terahertz. But then the ultrasound operates at the frequency of the microtubules, whereas the light is operating at the tubule inside the microtubules. And so when the key point here is that the non-commutative phase, it works with the tubule and the microtubules, so that there's a reversal of the quantum mechanism, so that the consciousness is actually from the future. It's free will. And Hameroff is testing a little bit further, so that if a person has a finger they will react as free will consciousness. Which is then I think it was something like 40 milliseconds or something. But then if they activate the brain directly in the part of the brain that is the motor neuron for moving the finger, it has to be 500 milliseconds of a stimulation, electrical stimulation, in order for the finger to then be moved. And so the point being that cognition is actually in the past, whereas free will consciousness is in the future. It's a reverse time reaction from the past, whereas the standard scientists are claiming that this is what Hameroff calls it being in the zone, where the frequency is higher, but then external so that all of the reactions based on the future. And so the difference between external and internal is non-local consciousness. That's actually from the future. And it's the difference between the pi resonance of the tubulin, so that they have the benzene chains of the indole molecules working with the tubulin are being pumped from the future as a non-local connection between the electrons and the protons. And then once a certain number of protons are resonated from the future, then they collapse into consciousness, and it's that moment of proton threshold of mass that's delocalized, then causes the future to then be turned into